Welcome to Milking the Franchise, the Cash Cow Chronicles. Where me and Chris watch
movies.
Chris, we're gonna have to find a cow. Are there any cow franchises out there?
Oh, this
really
is a
nail.
question.
That way we can really nail that part.
Did Air Bud ever make a cow friend? I mean, there's no rules. There's nothing in the rule book that says Air Bud can't make friends with a cow.
That's true.
Yeah.
Air cow, air ovine.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
We'll keep thinking on that one.
We'll keep thinking of it. If you guys know of any cow franchises, let us know, please. Welcome. Yeah, this is the show where we watch every movie in a franchise.
That's right.
Involve ourselves and force ourselves to take part in. Sometimes we love it and sometimes we hate it. We take part in all the other IP, the video games, the books, the spin-off shows, and all of that. And we talk about how the franchises get milked for all they're worth.
Absolutely.
Right? My name's Tanner.
My name's Chris. Yeah, and we're kind of poking our way through one of the most milked franchises right now. We watched the third installment of the Ghostbusters, the 2016 movie starring Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy.
AKA Lady Ghostbusters, AKA Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
That's right. There's a plethora of titles for this thing.
I'm refusing to call it Answer the Call. I think that's just the tagline of the movie.
Do you just not like it?
I feel like it's just on the poster as the tagline, and then people started calling it that as a way to differentiate it. But it's just called Ghostbusters, right?
Yes. Apparently, Paul Feig, the director, said that he wanted the movie to be called Ghostbusters, but the studio wanted it different, so they put it at the very end of the movie, not at the beginning.
Is that right? Oh, they put Answer the Call at the end?
At the end. That? So it's in the closing credits, it says Ghostbusters Answer the Call, but at the opening credits, it just says Ghostbusters. So confusing, right?
Very confusing, yeah.
Whatever you want to call this thing, we watched the 2016 Lady Ghostbusters movie, and we're going to talk about it today.
Yeah, it's definitely a how do you want to call it? It's one of those improvised comedy movies, like an Apatow kind of feeling, where it's like a lot of improvised jokes and stuff like that. You know what you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what we did. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing good, Tanner. I know it's Pisces season, so I know you have a birthday coming up. I got a birthday coming up.
Reese's Pisces?
And if I recall, you're turning 23 this year?
Yet again.
Yeah, staying at 23. I love it. But no, I'm doing good. Just kind of floating right now.
You want to talk birthdays? Is that what you want to talk about?
Yeah. Do you have any plans? What are you doing for your birthday?
Oh, great question. Avoiding anyone bringing it up on a podcast. First of all,
great.
I think I'm at that age where I try to avoid my age, and I'm just being real. I am not going to do anything. I asked to work on my birthday.
Love it. Happy birthday to you.
Although I will say the next day I'm going to Scottsdale for 4 days.
Are you doing spring training again this year?
With some of the boys. We're going to miss it, actually. The season will have started that day, I believe.
Okay.
That was part of it, but it didn't work out for everybody, so we ended up we're going to go golfing. Late 30s white males do. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do, and it's not really for my birthday, but it is the day after. So
great.
What about you?
Yeah, no golfing, unfortunately, this year. Yeah, I think I'm gonna celebrate with some friends. Um, one of my colleagues is also having her birthday party this weekend, and she's doing like a whole horse thing. They're going to like a
Explain.
ranch. They're going to
Whole
a
horse
ranch.
thing.
They're riding horses. Um, and I'm a large man. I don't
I'm from
really.
Washington, so when I hear a whole horse thing, my mind goes somewhere else.
Oh yeah, let's not touch that. um, but yeah, so that's happening this weekend too. I might do that. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Just
it's
kind of
on. Do they
poking
celebrate
around.
St. Patrick's Day over there
There's
in
one
Columbia?
Irish bar. It's called
Is there?
Patrick's. So maybe I'll go to Patrick's for some car bombs or something. Who
Yeah, of
knows?
course, it's called Patrick's.
Of course it is. Yeah. But yeah.
Um, awesome.
So that, and then just living in Ghostbusters land this week. So excited to talk to you about all the stuff we watched and read.
Hell yeah, I'm looking forward to. Had you seen this movie before?
I had seen this movie. Yes. Had
Yeah,
you?
me too. Yeah, I have seen it. I have not seen the next one though, so I'm excited for that.
Likewise, this is the end of what I have seen. So everything after this, both of the next two. Well, obviously the newest one is coming out. It's not even out yet. But
You haven't seen that yet? Shoot.
Need to get on the internet, Pirate Bay that thing.
All right. Well, another aspect of the show that we do is we make surveys. So we ask you guys to follow along and make some jokes with us. Take a survey for each movie, and we'll read your answers on the show, which is what we're going to do now for last week's movie,
That's
Ghostbusters
right.
2.
And after the show today, make sure you take the survey that we're going to put in the show notes that goes along with this movie. But yeah, let's talk Ghostbusters 2 real quick, and then we'll get into the new stuff.
Just to specify, it's not like a test. You guys don't need to know the answers. It's more of a goof and just reminisce about the movie. You probably don't even have to watch the movie all the time to join in if you're listening to the show. So
Absolutely.
say that. Yeah, let's get into it. Favorite ghost moment of Ghostbusters 2 was the winner was the electric chair ghosts.
Oh,
Ooh,
the Scolari brothers?
of course.
Yeah.
In the courtroom scene, that's a good scene. Then the Statue of Liberty coming to life. Your least favorite part of the movie, right?
Yeah, I hated that moment. Thought it was incredibly stupid.
And then we asked you. So they played "Love Lifting Me Up." Is that what it's called? Higher and Higher. Whatever that song's called, they played that to bring the Statue of Liberty to life. So
Worked on a toaster. Worked for the Statue of Liberty too.
Honestly, it works on me when I hear that song. I get up and dance. That's
sure.
no
Yeah.
joke.
Yep.
What song would you play to make the Statue of Liberty come to life? By the way, shout out to the Reddit subreddit for Ghostbusters for filling out some of these questions.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Got 7 responses. The first one here, Riding Dirty.
Great.
Bring Me to Life.
Okay.
By
Evanescence. Okay.
Very on the nose. I like it. Vampires by Nightclub. Okay. Or is it Nightclub by Vampires?
I don't know. Either way you say that, I don't know what song that is.
I feel like it could be the band name or the title interchanged. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Something from Les Mis. She's from France originally, after all.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah. Connect with her roots.
Thriller, Michael Jackson. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
WAP. Or is that somebody trying to say what? Or like what?
No, you know that song.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, little Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wet Ass P. And then Wake Me Up Before You Go.
I like that one. That would be good.
It's got a very similar vibe as the Higher and Higher song. It's very upbeat.
Yes.
And then Jesus Walks.
That's a very different vibe. It's a very different vibe.
Going for the Wake Me Up Before You Go, and then Jesus, it's walking, It's all about like something has risen. So there's a theme there.
That one does have a pretty sweet backbeat that would be cool in that song.
That's a great song, really. I mean,
yeah.
All right. This movie seemed to imply that Egon had sex with the slime. If you had the slime alone to yourself, what would you do?
I forgot we had this question.
Oh boy,
All right,
yeah.
what we got?
Someone just said, "I'm a quiet one."
Don't kiss and tell, huh?
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Dance with it.
Good.
Pull an Egon. Nice. We're making that a phrase.
Pulling Egon, yeah.
Bathe in it for a relaxing slime bath.
Oh, I love self-care is so important, you guys.
Nothing. Great. We found the criminal. Do a remake of Flubber.
You might as well.
Well, you might as
You know?
well.
Yeah, might as
I've
well.
always said that.
Disney's not using it right now. Get in there.
Where has Flubber been? Just cuddle and see where it goes.
Netflix and slime.
Ooh. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Do you want to go back and take the survey again and write that in, Chris? Netflix and slime?
Just for posterity. Yeah.
Netflix and
right
bust.
on that.
All right. The Ghostbusters defeated Vigo by harnessing the good vibes of New York City. If you had unlimited good vibe power, what real life problems would you solve? Erase the divide caused by Donald Trump. Nice.
Excellent.
Racism.
Good.
Perfect. The bullying at my school. Ooh. We need
Nice.
to talk to this guy. Angry drivers on the road.
This is the level of petty I was hoping for.
The price for a good sandwich. I'm not paying $15 for a sandwich that tastes like buttered toe fungus.
Yeah, good vibes would definitely fix that.
Ooh, buttered toe fungus.
Uh-huh.
It's not a drug addiction anymore. It's vibes. Explain that.
I stole that one from. I saw a billboard down here that said, "It's not Botox, it's vibes."
Oh, that's right.
Hilarious. I thought that was hilarious.
And then we got Israel-Palestine conflict. Great.
Well, somebody's doing something about it.
Yeah. Hey, if whatever works, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't talk a whole lot about it in this in the episode last week, but afterwards I was talking about how I think Slimer is the catalyst for the end of these Murray, Aykroyd, Reitman movies. Just as like, you know, he led to the kidification of the franchise. Basically, that led to requiring a PG rating and preferring to sell toys over making the quality sequel. So basically, in summary, I'm blaming Slimer. Do you agree with this theory? And more people agreed with me than not by one vote.
Does that make you feel good on the inside, Tanner?
Well, one of the votes was me, so I guess I was the tiebreaker there.
Take the win, dude. Take the win. I voted for it too.
It does make me feel good.
Yeah.
Almost as good as Bustin'. And then we asked, why do you think we never got another sequel? We got 2 sequels, 3 if you count the video game. Okay.
Right. Not sure how they're counting.
I think they're counting these new ones.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, no, the Afterlife and the new one, I think.
Okay.
Because those are continuity.
Yep.
Then one just says Bill Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We will.
With 3 question marks after
Chris,
it?
I think we need to see these new movies because I guess they're just straight up sequels.
Okay.
Bill Murray being a twat, script issues, the cast getting too big for their own shoes.
Yes.
Bill Murray and Sony being fucky. There's a bunch of YouTube videos covering it.
Great.
We'll stop this and watch those real quick. All right, we're back. Yep. Selfish Stars. 2 was bad. Janusz was busy.
I wanted him to be the center of the universe.
Well, if we can't have Janusz, we're not making another sequel.
Exactly right.
People didn't love this movie, and neither did the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of Bill Murray. So, you know, these new ones, I guess, are sequels. So maybe we need to reevaluate it later on. Although I feel like they're going to be like really small parts in the movie, but maybe I'm wrong. Um,
Like we said earlier, neither one of us have seen them, so I think it'll be cool to kind of check in on those.
yeah. And then rate Ghostbusters 2 got a 4 out of 5 on average.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I
Higher
don't
score than
remember
was
what our
expecting, honestly.
rating system was.
I think it was from too little Slimer to just the right amount of Slimer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all Slimer based on
Mm-hmm.
the show. In fact, we should change our mascot to Slimer.
God.
A green ghost cow.
Just think how many toys we'll sell of that, Tanner.
Oh, I was thinking about
which is why we started podcasting in the first place, was just to get those plastic toys out there and start making that sweet money.
Sell that munch
Passive
merch.
income, baby. That munch merch. Yeah.
Well, thanks again to everyone who took that. Really good answers this week. It was a great one.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
It's always better with the prompts, so thank you. And now we're going to shift our full attention. We got some more fun later in the show. We're going to talk about Extreme Ghostbusters and some more milk from the franchise. But first, we'll talk about 2016 Ghostbusters.
That's right.
Directed by Paul Feig, director of Bridesmaids and some other stuff, and starring, who do we got here? Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon, and we'll throw in one
Chris
of the many
Hemsworth?
Chris Hemsworth. Yeah, there's a lot of people in this movie though, famous.
Yeah,
people.
It's a good cast. A lot of good fun people.
Yeah.
Chris,
do you want to take it away?
Yeah, let's do it. We start with Zach Woods, one other famous person. You know him from The Office and from
Silicon Valley.
Thank you. That's the other one I was looking for. And he is working at something called the Aldrich Mansion in New York City. And he is hosting a ghost tour. So he's like walking around this spooky mansion, talking about Mr. Aldridge. And it's like, I've never actually been on one of these tours, but I've seen them in so many movies that I feel like I have. I don't know if you have the same experience, but he's walking some folks around this place. And he
like
has
a haunted ghost tour, right? A haunted tour.
Yes. And he's just kind of explaining this horrible daughter that the Aldridge guy had, and how they locked her in the basement and she murdered a bunch of people and all sorts of stuff. And he's also sneaking in a bunch of little sly one-liners. I think I liked his performance doing that.
He mentioned a face bidet, enslaving elephants, and an anti-Irish security fence.
Yep. I also like the part where he said that the clock came from the Titanic and Mr. Aldridge brought it on the lifeboat, and a Romanian woman and her child were forced off the life raft to make room. I thought that was a funny little line. There's some little tricks. He's got like a fake tipper over candle to scare everybody. And as he's kind of closing up after his little ghost tour, and he's been talking about Gertrude Aldridge, who's the daughter and everything, an actual haunt kind of takes place at this mansion. And he ends up kind of locked in the basement, and we get our Ghostbusters theme song and the opening. So this is just kind of like in the other movies too. Yeah, it's a nice little opening.
I noticed they played the original song in the opening. And I was kind of like, oh, they didn't remake the song for this movie, but I was wrong, because as we're going to hear, they did it maybe 3 different times.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah. I feel like they had a bunch of people like, hey, let's remake the song, and they didn't know which one to choose, so they just threw them all in at different points.
Throw more stuff at the target. I like the one that they played over that fight scene. It was pretty epic at the end. More epic than the fighting.
Song exactly, but yeah.
So after the intro, after Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters, we meet Erin Gilbert, who is played by Kristen Wiig. She's really awkward. She's a professor at Columbia University in New York City. And she's close to tenure. She's like up for her tenure evaluation soon. It really seems like she's in a pretty uncomfortable relationship with someone she's working with. And she's not really respected by, she isn't getting the respect she thinks she deserves at Columbia, it kind of seems like.
Chris, can you explain tenure to me real quick? Does 10 years have anything to do with it, or is that just...
Well, I teach sixth grade, so I don't think that I'm in line for tenure at any point here. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like it's just job
Is it
security.
like a union for
principals.
teachers, or...
I think it's just college professors, and
Okay.
it's like extra job security, extra money, and probably some extra responsibilities. But you know, I'm not really sure. I've never worked at that level.
I guess I'm curious how you get qualified for it. Is it like just a time thing and you just get it?
I don't
That's
know.
why I asked about the tenure thing. It's like after 10 years, you just get tenure.
You get 10-year, and then the next year you get 11-year, and then the next year 12-year.
Even more job security. 12
job still secure,
security.
Bro? Yeah.
Yeah. So she, like you said, she's up for tenure, but then she finds out that somebody visits her at the school.
Ed Begley Jr.
Ed Begley Jr. Yeah, there's so many famous people in this. And he's got her book that she wrote, which is like a paranormal book that she wrote with Melissa McCarthy, like years before, that she's tried to bury and forget about because she's supposed to be a respected scientist now.
That's right.
What was the name of the book?
It's called Ghosts from Our Past, both figurative and literal. And then there's another little tagline that I didn't write down. But it's a very long book title.
Well, you know we love long titles here.
That's very true. It's right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, so there's a little scene. Her boss is played by Charles Dance, who's Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Yep.
And there's a scene where she's like looking it up she finds out the book's still for sale on Amazon. It's just like out there and she wants to get rid of it. So she goes and looks it up on Amazon, and he comes into her office and she's like trying to hide it. There's like a whole comedy scene of her like trying to hide the screen from him.
Mm-hmm.
But Chris, why didn't she just like scroll down or like close the tab?
Click back.
Anything?
This is a great question. I don't know. Like I spend my time around middle schoolers and they're always playing games and they're real quick at clicking tabs, switching tabs. She should have done better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the easiest way is just to scroll down. Scroll down to like where it has not the picture of her face right there on the screen.
And that's my biggest problem with this movie, Tanner.
Well, same here. I actually stopped writing notes after this.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she goes to visit Abby. So Melissa McCarthy is the person she wrote this book with, and she is not a professor at Columbia, so she doesn't have to pretend she's like a uppity scientist quite the same way. And did you write down where she is working? I was
just going to ask you.
Okay.
It seemed like a community college or something because they really played up that the dean or whoever it was like just didn't give a shit.
Yes.
And yeah,
he's wearing like shorts and sandals. It's like very much and they make a lot of jokes at the expense of this community college. But yeah, she's working there with Holtzman. So we also meet Kate McKinnon and her character at this point. A lot of good. Go ahead.
I wrote this down just at this point. I want to make sure we talk about it. Do you think it seems like they replaced each character one for one, right? It wasn't like they tried to redo their personalities. So they have like, I mean, maybe a little bit, but it would like Wig is supposed to be Venkman, right? And then McCarthy is Dan Aykroyd's Stance character.
Yeah.
And McKinnon would be Spengler.
Egon.
Harold Ramis, right?
Egon. Yes, Egon. Yeah. And then Leslie Jones would be Ernie.
Yeah, Winston.
Yeah, Winston.
I'm always confused with their names too. Anyway, sorry. What were we going to say about that scene?
Not much. Yeah, we just meet Holtzman. She has a lot of crazy manic energy. And I will say they did replace them 1-to-1. I thought this movie did a better job of giving all 4 characters stuff to do instead of just Venkman with 3 sidekicks, which is kind of how the original 2 movies felt to me. And Venkman is, the best part of Ghostbusters, the first 2 movies, but it is kind of cool to have all the characters with stuff to do in this movie. Yeah, so we're at this community college, and Abby and Aaron are kind of fighting because they clearly had a falling out around the time of this book. Aaron, Kristen Wiig's character, kind of got too high and mighty for their paranormal research, and kind of broke off the friendship with Abby, Melissa McCarthy's character, and so they kind of hashed that out in the basement in this research lab at this other university.
Yeah. So you get a lot of peeks into their inventions and the way there's a lot of, we talked about in the first movie, the sciencey terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like this one went way overboard, right?
They used a lot of them, yes. I wish that I had gone out of my way to write all of them down, but I kind of chose not to after that first movie.
This scene has halo laser for the reverse tractor beam and electro voice phenomenon.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a fart sound as well. I don't know if that was supposed to be included. We had a fart joke in this scene.
Yeah, they like lured her over to listen to the thing and then played a fart for
her. Yeah, so let's see what happens here. They get fired quickly after, right?
Did they do that already? I thought they went to the Aldrich Mansion first.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they go back to kind of investigate because that man who came with the book, Ed Begley Jr., had told them that at the Aldridge Mansion there was a haunting and there was a whatever. And so Aaron passes that on to the other two women. And so they decide to go to the Aldridge Mansion to check it out. And a great joke when they first show up, they see Zach Woods standing on the side of the street, and they say that they're there for Ed Mulgrave because he came to visit them, and he goes, Ed Mulgrave has been dead for 15 years. And then Ed Begley Jr. walks up, and he's like, oh, this is Ed Jr., his son. Like, of course they were talking about this guy and not his dead dad.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
A lot of good jokes. The first, hour of this movie, I will say, was, actually really funny.
I thought so, too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt this is the second time I've seen this, and I enjoyed it much more this time than I did the first go through.
I think I remember being like, "Oh, this isn't that bad." The first time after all the crap you heard about it and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and it was definitely funny. I think the second half gets less so, but we'll get there.
We'll get to that part for sure. But yeah, a lot of good jokes packed into all sorts of parts of this movie. But so they go back. There is ectoplasm on the floor, and the basement door to that creepy basement opens. And and what happens next, Tanner?
This scary ghost lady comes out of there. They try to do kind of like they did in the first movie, and try to talk to it, and then it runs right through Kristen Wiig and slimes her. Gets an epic slime job. And they drop the line ecto projected. Oh no, she vomits on her. That's what it was. The ghost vomits all over her.
A lot of vomit. A vomit slime.
Yeah. So that's that.
They run outside and they're celebrating because they spent all this time doing paranormal research and everybody's laughed at them and they saw a ghost, and Kristen Wiig's character is yelling, "We saw a ghost! We saw a ghost! Ghosts are real!" And then it immediately cuts to her dean, her boss at the university, watching this video with her. And it's clear that Columbia has no interest in this Ghostbuster, and she is fired.
Another part of this is that they are filming all of this throughout this movie, kind of like, why don't we have video? The whole problem with the first one, we have no evidence. But in this one, they're actually filming it, and it is appearing on the camera, but everybody still thinks it's fake.
Yes.
Which is just a funny layer to it. So the video had the ghosts in it, but they just assumed they were faking it, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, she gets fired. And then they all get fired, right?
Yeah. Then she goes to visit Abby and Holtzman, and their thing is like, yeah, let's just go upstairs. We'll get you hired on here. You can work with us. And then when she goes up to talk to the dean, the dean's like, why are we paying for paranormal research? You are all fired. And I thought that scene with the dean was pretty funny.
That's the guy.
Such an asshole. Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he was like a writer on SNL for a long time. And he was like when Jimmy Fallon first took over the Tonight Show, he was his like sidekick, and
Oh,
their
okay.
interactions were always really good. And that show like died when he left, basically.
Okay.
I
Steve
think
Higgins is that actor's name.
Higgins, yes,
Yep.
Higbones, yeah. Yeah, he's great.
Yep. So they all get fired, and they steal a ton of stuff from the university when they go. And,
on their way out, he yells, "Hey, that worthless garbage belongs to this school."
Great line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we get a cut, and we meet up with the fourth Ghostbuster, Leslie Jones, who is working as a New York City transit officer in the subway. Her name's Patty, and we also meet Rowan, who is going to be the big bad in this movie. He's a creepy weirdo. Any other thoughts on Rowan or Patty?
No, not really.
Okay.
Rowan,
Yeah.
I was trying to think of he's in a lot of movies as well in small parts, but I don't know his name right now.
Okay. I didn't even write it down.
Yeah.
And he's basically going around the city setting these like paranormal rumble packs is how I thought about them throughout this movie.
I was confused about what those were completely.
I don't know.
Okay.
They kind of explain it later. It's a little hand-waving-y, but basically they increase the paranormal activity wherever they get placed. And so it like makes the ghosts ghostier.
So yeah, this guy's going around basically trying to bring the ghosts out for what he keeps saying, like a line like cross the fold or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but he like
charge the lines, create the vortex, break the barrier.
Yeah. I don't know do you know his motivations at all? Did we ever really find out what they were?
Yeah, I feel like the motivations, it might be one of the things that piss people off about watching this movie, because it just seems like his motivations are he's lonely and
he's a loser.
People bullied him and he's a loser. Yeah.
Yep.
And
so
not
Neil
a great
Neil
villain.
Casey is his name.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
SNL writer. Yeah.
Okay.
Character actor. Yep.
Yeah.
So you see him. She follows him on the subway tracks down a little ways, and he's kind of sneaking around. And then another ghost appears, and spooks her, and that's all I got there.
Yep. And then so then we cut back to the other Ghostbusters, and they are kind of like looking around the city for a place to put. For their Ghostbusters HQ. And there's kind of a nice head fake at the beginning. They go to like the original Ghostbusters firehouse, and they're like looking around, but it's way too expensive. So they end up with an office above a Chinese restaurant. And it's the same Chinese restaurant as they keep ordering delivery from, and the guy keeps screwing up their order.
Well, he keeps like bringing them. It's like wonton soup with one wonton in it, or and then it's supposed to be $21,000 a month, is what they said. I don't know how anyone could afford that.
I don't know. Money isn't real in New York City, is my theory.
Yeah. There's just some. What do we got now? There's some montages happening, some dancing around.
Yep. Let's see. Chris Hemsworth shows up for an interview to be their secretary. And Erin is like painfully awkward around him. She's like so attracted to him because he's just such a hunky hunk. And Chris Hemsworth plays a pretty good like idiot handsome man.
Yeah, he's like incredibly dumb.
Yes.
He wears glasses without any glass in him.
Because they were getting smudged, so he took the lenses out. Yeah.
He's got a dog named Mike Hat.
So when you say it fast, it says my cat.
Yeah. My cat, yeah. Mm-hmm. Is this? Did they hire him before they do like the coming up with the logo scene, or am I getting ahead of myself?
I think it's before that. Or no, it's like right in here. Yeah, so they hire Kevin, and then Patty shows up and kind of explains what happened in the subway. So then they go to the subway with Patty. And then we get the spray paint logo that you mentioned. And
before that, they asked Kevin to mock up some logos for them.
And so
he gives them like the 7-Eleven symbol, which is 711. A hot dog. It's just a picture of a hot dog. I think it's supposed to be like call 711 for the Ghostbusters, right? That's what he was thinking. Then there's a picture of a hot dog and a picture of a house. And he's like, it's implied that the ghost is holding the hot dog,
right? Because it's floating in the picture.
And then
don't forget the third one, Tanner.
Well, this is what I brought up last week. His first one is a ghost with boobs, because it's a lady Ghostbusters, and it looks very much like the one from my childhood that I brought up last week.
Yeah.
Did you think about that when it came up?
I did think about that when it came up. If you didn't listen last week, Tanner brought up this story from his childhood. Do you want to tell us about this car, Tanner? This is your...
Oh, it was a car that went around my town where I grew up, or it just was kind of parked on the main street. I can't remember, but it was painted like the Ghostbusters car, except there was a naked ghost with boobs on it. And it was just, very early. It was just out there for everyone to see in the neighborhood, kids and everyone. And yeah, I hadn't thought about it in like 25 years probably, but I thought about it when I thought about Lady Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he stole that idea basically.
Wow. They ripped it off from your childhood.
Well, maybe somebody grew up in my town and worked on this movie that I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to jump us back into the subway if that's all right with you.
You're going to go into the subway?
Oh, yeah, dude. Because we're back in the subway. They head down. They follow Patty down into the subway, and they see this giant apparition. And it's time for Holtzman to bust out her experiment, right? She's got this experimental gun, and Erin is forced to use it, and she has this funny line that I liked. Why am I the one operating the untested nuclear laser? And Holtzman's response is, because you have the longest arms. And they try to catch this thing with the proton pack, but the proton pack doesn't work very well yet. The ghost is able to escape and gets dragged off on a train. But they've got a proton pack prototype, and there's ghosts about, so they're going to be able to do their Ghostbuster thing.
Yeah, you mentioned the graffiti briefly. There's they meet this graffiti artist who's just tagging up the wall, and they're like, they kind of lead him into basically creating the Ghostbusters logo, on a graffiti wall, which I thought was kind of a clever way to do that.
Very New York City.
They're like, oh no, don't write a ghost, don't spray paint a ghost on here. Then he makes the circle with the red line through it. Yeah. Let's see, where do we go next? I'm kind of my outlines for the movie are very thin.
No, you're fine.
I'm trying to not be too detailed.
There's a lot of little scenes in this movie too. It kind of jumps around a little bit.
Yeah.
We get a quick shot. Patty gets hired as the fourth Ghostbuster, and she gets a hearse. Because her uncle, who we'll meet at the end of the movie, foreshadowing, owns what do you call those places? Funeral home?
Yes, a hearse shop. Yes.
Mm-hmm. A hearsery.
A hearsery. Where hearses are born.
That's right.
Yeah, she gets hired because she knows New York and she has a car. So those are her two qualifications.
And that's what she brings. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is honestly kind of what Winston had in the first two movies.
Did he? Did he bring the car? Was he the car guy?
He knew New York. Oh, did he?
He knew New York. No,
I thought he knew New York. Okay. Anyway,
he knew New York.
No, New York.
Yeah. So we get a little scene of Kristen Wiig explaining her first haunting when she was a child. Some lady died and stood by her bed every day for a year when she was 8 years old, and nobody believed her. She became the ghost girl, which kind of is brought up throughout this, that nobody believes you. You're just the ghost girl.
Yep.
Except for Abby was the only person that believed her, and that's how they became friends and became into ghosts. Yeah?
Got into busting. That's how they got there.
And then you get a little cameo here. The first of many cameos. On TV, there's Bill Murray is the science debunker because they released the video of the train attack that we just talked about.
Yep.
and it has the ghost in there, and it looks clear as day, but nobody believes it. So people think it's fake. And that scene where they're looking at the video on YouTube and they're reading the comments and stuff.
I really liked that. That was funny.
Well, that was added in later as part of the reshoots as an attempt to kind of make a joke about all the comments on their trailer, apparently, the trailer for the movie, because everyone just like did all over this movie when it came out.
And before it came out.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, when the trailer came out, it was the most downvoted thing on YouTube ever or something like that.
Movie trailer, yeah.
Yeah, the trailer.
Uh-huh.
So that was an attempt to make a joke on that. They were reading the comments like, why are they being so mean? Anyway, so yeah, Bill Murray is a science debunker. So he's kind of playing, somebody who doesn't believe in it.
Yep. And it's interesting that they brought all these characters back, but in different roles.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to you about that at some point. I don't know if we want to hit it with Bill Murray or because they brought back Annie Potts, they brought back Sigourney Weaver. They're all here. There's even a bust at the very beginning. At this point, Harold Ramis is dead when they filmed this movie, but there's even a bust of him.
A bust?
Like a bronze statue, like on the wall. Yeah, I
you got
the right
busting
word.
on the mind.
No, I know. A bust of a buster. Is
a
on
ghost
the wall.
Bust.
Whatever else we were going to talk about is over. We're just doing bust puns at this point. Yeah, he's on the wall too. But yeah, they're all back, but in different parts. And so Bill Murray is like you said, is this strange ghost.
Where was the Harold Ramis one? I didn't see it.
It's I can't remember which of the two schools it was, if it was Aaron's or Abby's, but there's a scene when she's leaving the boss's office and he's right there.
Gotcha.
As like a gold statue. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to talk about it now, they're all back in some form in this movie, but none of the same characters. I did hear that Paul Feig didn't want to collaborate with them necessarily. He wanted to do his own thing, and that was part of it. But okay. I'm assuming you have more info on it.
Oh no, I don't know. I was just curious. It felt weird to me that they brought all these characters back, but then didn't have them in the same roles. You know, it wasn't like Bill Murray was like showing them the ropes or anything. It was like it's still Bill Murray, but he's a completely different character. And I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they're cameo. You know, it's like the little nod to the old movies, but they wanted to do a full reboot and not like a legacy sequel kind of thing.
That does make sense. Yeah.
And they wanted it to be its own thing, but they were all still kind of game and a part of it. It wasn't like contentious, it sounds like. Because they were all in it in some place. Yeah. Around this part, I'm probably missing a lot, but I wrote down that there's a new remixed version of the Ghostbusters song by Missy Elliott.
Ooh, Missy Misdemeanor. 16
years after her probably last hit, I'm assuming.
You might be right. Yeah.
I hadn't really heard much from Missy Elliott. It's not a very good cover in my opinion. Might be worse than the Run DMC version.
And honestly, I'm not holding that against Missy Elliott. She made a Ghostbusters theme for a Ghostbusters movie. It doesn't have to be the high watermark of her career. Yeah, what else is going on here? We have like an Ozzy Osbourne show.
Yeah. Is that here?
And so we're also getting some footage of Rowan kind of going around the city doing his dastardly deeds. There's a little shot of him. He's working as like a maintenance man at this hotel in the middle of New York City. All of his coworkers think he's a creepy weirdo, and he has this room at the bottom of the hotel where there's like all these creepy mirrors with like ghost-looking things on the backside.
So like that we kind of get out.
Exactly. Yeah. And I thought that visual was really effective. I don't know if you like that as much as I did, but the ghosts behind the windows, I thought was kind of spooky. Yeah.
Yeah. I was terrified.
Yeah. Have you cleaned the poopies out of your pants yet, Tanner?
I did soil myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're at the Ozzy Osbourne show. This is going to be the first public appearance of ghosts here, and see they're kind of aware of it. I don't know how they got. Oh, they called them in. The owner of the place called them in.
Michael McDonald from Mad TV.
Yeah, Stewart himself.
That's right.
So they get there, they show up, they're kind of looking around. He's like, it'll present itself, I'm sure. And the mannequins kind of come to life and start chasing Leslie Jones around and breaking into their room. They try to bust it, and they do. And then this giant like dragon, I called it a dragon slimer, comes out.
Fantastic description. Yeah.
So it's just like a green dragon ghost. Mm-hmm. And it flies out in the middle of the heavy metal show. And everyone thinks it's like part of the show and it's super cool. And they bust it in front of everybody, and they do some crowd surfing busting, and there's some jokes. What else happens here, Chris?
Yeah, no, that's a good description. Does the existence of this dragon ghost imply that there are dragons in the world of Ghostbusters?
It's a weird choice that there's a
or is there a person that died and then their ghost turned into a dragon?
Oh, that's a great question.
Okay. I also had questions about the really tall man that shows up later. Like, what died to make that ghost?
Yeah, because a lot of ghosts are like people that died, right? And they're just like, this is like a criminal who died, or a person like the Pilgrims'
daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, and then other ones are like just monstrous.
Uh-huh. Like, what was Slimer before he died?
A booger?
A dead booger. The ghost of a booger brought to life.
Or, I don't know, yeah. Good question. I don't know, maybe some like meat that got like, mixed up or like smashed up together in a ball. That's kind of what it looks like. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, so they do, I don't know. The fight scenes aren't my favorite in this movie. Yeah. And we'll talk about that later with the other one, but you're right. They get through this fight scene. They make some jokes. There's some excitement. There's a quick Ozzy Osbourne cameo, but they have successfully trapped a ghost in their little ghost containment device, and now they can take it home and prove that it exists. And all of those things. They can kind of continue with their research and prove that they're like legit scientists instead of frauds.
But it doesn't go so well, does it?
No, it does not. Because when they arrive back at their HQ, who was there, Tanner?
Oh, was this Bill Murray again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they, the science debunker guy, I guess he's famous. He shows up at their place, and he wants to see what's in their little trap. So he like basically gets them to Kristen Wiig wants to prove so bad that they're not just making it up, and so she lets him out, lets the dragon ghost out, and immediately just knocks Bill Murray out the window and kills him.
I know. I was hoping we were going to see his ghost later.
Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah.
He did show up as a zombie once before in Zombieland, so it would be nice to have him as a ghost one time.
Yeah, just cover all of your paranormal bases,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good that they killed him too. I thought maybe it was just going to be they kind of injured him and he fell out the window cartoonishly, but no, he straight up died.
Yes. Did you watch the only one that was available to rent for me was the extended version?
Oh, and I'm sorry.
No, I thought it was good. They added a bunch more jokes. There was just way more jokes. And there was a bunch of Patrick Swayze jokes here. Was that in your version of the movie as well?
Yes, there was Patrick Swayze jokes.
Okay.
Something about Ghost, and then they brought up Roadhouse and how they like Roadhouse, right?
And then Point Break, yeah. Yeah. I didn't remember that from the first time that I watched it, so I thought that maybe that was part of the
I think I watched the regular one because it was free on Freevee. So that's the one that I watched. I did see an extended version for sale or for rent. How much longer was it? Do you know how long it was?
12 minutes.
12 minutes? Nice.
Yeah.
That's 12 minutes of laughter that you got.
Yeah, and that's what it said. It said that that was what got cut. because they wanted to fit more show times into a day, and so they cut basically 12 minutes of comedy out of this. I didn't mind the extra time; it was kind of nice. And then we meet Michael K. Williams and Matt Walsh, who are the kind of the henchmen of the mayor, because it's time for a mayor meeting. There's no Ghostbusters movie without a mayor meeting.
Gotta have it.
Gotta have it. The mayor in this movie is Andy Garcia, and Cecily Strong, also from Saturday Night Live, is like his second in command. And the mayor thanks them and also wants them to quit because they're drawing attention to the ghost problem in the city.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that they do like one ghost catch and then it's like, this is too much. You guys are getting way too famous.
Yes.
In like the other movie, they have like a long montage and presumably have been doing it for months and months before this.
And
kind
it
of thing
shows
happened.
them getting super famous. Like there's that whole month. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. So one is too much. I guess with the internet and putting it on YouTube, it's like maybe just a quicker way, and that's kind of what they're implying there. Yeah. So they get asked to stop by Andy Garcia, and then I think we get some new inventions. We get like more cutscenes and more fun stuff here.
Yeah.
If I miss anything here, but we get a little trial of their new inventions, ghost catching inventions.
Yeah. Holtzman is a little bit like Q from the James Bond movies, and she's made a bunch of fun toys for them. So there's a wood chipper that eats ghosts and spits them out in little pieces. What other stuff did she have?
You got a ghost grenade.
Oh, yeah.
And like a fist blaster thing that goes over your hand and kind of shoots it like Mega Man or something. Mm-hmm. Later on, she has like a ghost bear trap.
Yeah.
I kind of like their little inventions that they make.
And I did like that her being an inventor was like part of her character, because they never built anything in the Ghostbusters. In the like Egon you never showed him making new stuff, and I felt like that was a nice thing that they brought to this movie.
They had like the one thing that they built, the proton packs, and that was it.
Yeah,
yeah.
And it never really showed them working on that stuff either, you know. And this movie was constantly like, "Here's a new toy. I built this. Like, I fixed this." So I gave her something to do.
Yeah, definitely.
So then they go back to the headquarters, and on the TV, the mayor has labeled them as frauds to kind of like downplay fear of the paranormal. And we get some hijinks from Kevin. But importantly, we find out kind of the big plot here. The idea in this movie is ley lines. So like spooky things all over the world are connected along these direct lines that connect everything. And so they take a map and they draw all of the hauntings that they've seen and kind of connect them along these ley lines. And they find that these ley lines cross at this one intersection. And that is where our boy, what's his name, Roman? That's where he works at the hotel.
So it's one of those classic, like, all these things are happening in a pattern kind of thing.
Yes.
To find out where the next big happening is going to happen or whatever.
Yeah.
And do you know anything about ley lines? This was like, it seemed like such a dumb thing to me, but it looks like it's a real thing. Have you heard of this before?
I had heard of it. Oh man. Yeah. I feel like it's been referenced in another movie.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what I saw it in. What did you think about that story device?
Well, I think just that whole concept is usually it's overplayed. You know, they do it in. I just saw it in the Monarch show, which is like the new Godzilla Universe's Apple Plus TV show that they made.
Yeah.
And they did the exact same thing where they like pinpointed these things on the wall from this map that his dad had, and like, oh, this is going to be where the monsters come out next, kind of thing. And it happens a lot in these kind of movies where there's some just like supernatural pattern. And it looks like it's kind of people that believe in these supernatural things. Mm-hmm. From what I can see on Wikipedia, just quickly, that alignments are they recognize these as symbols and stuff like that. That there's always a pattern, right? In these theories, there's always some kind of pattern. So that's kind of, I don't know.
I mean,
I guess that's what
of
they're going off of.
a lot of this shit is like conspiracy theories, right? And so
Right.
it kind of aligns with that. Like everything's connected, and yeah.
Well, I'm seeing now that this is where where all the movies are getting it from, is that it's really based on other people's series. It's not just like a movie device.
Okay.
Not putting any, you know, I'm not saying it's real because of that. I'm just saying that it's not just a movie device.
Sure. It's
It's a pseudoscience device.
It's a useful movie device because this is what people believed way back when, right?
Yeah, or still now, probably.
Or still now, because people
Yeah.
believe a lot of dumb shit right now. Anyway, so we're off to the Mercado, which is the name of the hotel, and Kristen Wiig incorrectly translates to table. I'm pretty sure Mercado means market, but neither here nor there. And it's
Spanish
built.
for table.
Say again.
Oh, she just said Spanish for table, Mercado.
Yeah, which it isn't. I don't know. Anyway, was that a joke and I just missed it? Am I stupid?
Probably.
Okay, great. I'll
Not
take
that you're stupid, but that it was a joke. I mean, I assume if you're saying Mercado means market, then it probably was a joke.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just missed. It went over my head then. But anyway, the Mercado is built on a super creepy spot. Leslie Jones flexes a little bit of her New York know-how to give us a little rundown of all the atrocities that have happened at that spot. And so they go down to the hotel to kind of check up and see what's going on there. Annie Potts.
Justine as the receptionist. Yeah, she's back.
That's right.
Another cameo, not the same character, of course, but the second of all the cameos. Yes.
Did she deserve a cameo?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I
thought her part was kind of minor in those movies, but maybe I'm crazy.
It is, but she's like a big part of the legend of over the years. She's like part of the show. She's in Extreme Ghostbusters, Chris.
You're right. I'm sorry. I take that back. Annie Potts, much love, much love.
That happens a lot with like old franchises when they get like in the future. You know, at the time they seem like minor characters, and maybe people don't even disregard it. But like way later on, after people have seen it so many times, they become like part of the universe on the whole. Like whenever they reboot it.
Yeah.
I feel like Star Wars has a bunch of examples like that. Anyway,
sure.
Yeah, so she's the receptionist there. And what else happens?
She sends them downstairs to like find the creepy maintenance man because they had managed to recognize the man from the subway that Leslie Jones saw at the beginning of the movie as he's like in a photo of the staff of the Mercado. And so they know that this dude works there and they go to find him. And they go downstairs and confront Rowan, and they see all the creepy mirrors and his big supernatural machine. And instead of being taken by the Ghostbusters, Rowan grabs the two sides of his machine and electrocutes himself. And
they kind of play it up like it's over. They did it, you know. And except for like the mayor, then, or the Cecily Strong, I guess the mayor's whatever she is, blames them and basically says that, you know, they're crazy again, even though she knows that they helped her.
In a very like two-faced way. She thanks them privately and then smashes them publicly.
Yeah. But they realize that Rowan killing himself was part of the plan at some point. At least Kristen Wiig does, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
How did she come to that realization?
Let's see.
I don't know if it matters.
Because Rowan had a copy of their book, and so they had barely printed any copies of that book, the Ghosts from Our Past, Metaphorical and Literal, whatever that book was that the two of them had written. And Rowan had his own copy, and so she sits down and opens his copy, and there are just psychopath drawings in it. And one of the psychopath drawings shows him committing suicide the exact same way that it happened. And there's pictures after that of like an apocalypse event. And so
there's pictures of him, like him as a giant walking through the city. And I was like, oh boy, are we going to get another giant creature in the streets, but it's just a giant version of him?
We did get another giant in the
We did.
streets, but we'll get to that a little later.
So back, she's off doing her own thing here, reading that book, and then back at the office, Abby looks down the drain in the bathroom and gets attacked by green ghostly aura and is inhabited by Rowan at this point. So she comes out and she's acting really weird. Starts smashing all the protopacks and fighting with everyone. And there's a tussle here. People are hanging out of windows and shit.
Her
then
head
Leslie
turns around backwards.
Oh, it does the Exorcist thing, yeah.
Yep. And she flies around on wires a little bit too, which I thought was kind of funny.
And then it all culminates in Leslie Jones slapping the ghost out of her really hard on the ground.
Yep.
And the ghost goes outside and immediately gets into the body of Kevin, who shows up and wants to be a Ghostbuster on his motorcycle. That's Chris Hemsworth, and now he is the bad guy.
That's right. So the Rowan is now possessing Chris Hemsworth. And let's see what happens after that. We get
Kristen Wiig runs to the mayor, who I don't know how she knows how to find him, but he's having lunch with Cecily Strong and some people, and she goes in screaming. Some funny moments of her trying to open the glass
the sliding windows.
She thinks they're all doors. And she goes in and tries to plead her case to him, and he's like, I don't want to scare the city or whatever. And she says, please don't be like the mayor of Jaws. And he says, never compare me to the mayor of Jaws. Never.
Yeah. Great moment, especially considering you and I have watched all of those movies. It brought me a smile.
Yeah. So he's basically doesn't want to cause any commotion by shutting down the city or anything, which is what happens in Jaws. And
he does exactly
dies.
what the mayor of Jaws does.
Exactly. Then what happens?
So Kevin is basically heads back to the Mercado, the hotel. We see quick cameo from Sam Richardson from Detroiters, and he gets killed, and Kevin releases the ghosts. And I was wondering, was the suicide part of this plan necessary? I feel like he could have just released the ghosts before.
I think he was trying to become a ghost form himself. That way he can kind of move from body to body.
He could lead the charge. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're in a ghost form, then you can jump from body to body. You can never die, in theory, I guess is what his...
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
And if you let all the ghosts out and you're still human, you're going to have to deal with that, I guess. But okay, never mind. We get rat ghosts. We get a flasher ghost. There's a Red Sox ghost.
Oh yeah, okay. You said rat ghost, was there?
There's a bunch of green rats that ran up out of the subway, real quick.
Yeah, the flasher ghost, which is an old man who opens his trench coat to flash you, and he's a ghost inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? You said a Red Sox one?
There's a Red Sox ghost. Yep. I don't know. At this point,
Kristen Wiig is trying to run up and meet up with everybody.
That's right.
The ghost explosion has happened, and ghosts are just running wild. Like you said, these are just a series of little hauntings with the Red Sox thing, and she comes upon a taxi driver and wants a ride somewhere, and it's Dan Aykroyd as a taxi driver who happens to know
Dan Aykroyd.
He happens to know about Class 5 vapors. He's like, it's nothing to worry about. It's just a Class 5 vapor, and I ain't afraid of no ghosts. And then he drives away.
Yep.
And then we get another cameo right here.
Slimer.
Let's
get slimy, baby.
We got to get slimy. And he drives the car. He steals their car, basically.
Yep.
And he'll come back in a second here with my favorite part of the movie. We get a series of hauntings, different things. There's a parade, the Macy's Day Parade, but it's haunted.
Some giant balloon ghosts. Including for no reason the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
It's just I consider that a cameo.
Okay. Yeah. Just add it to the pile. Add it to the pile.
I mean, really, it is. It's just like this is like the nostalgia moment. Let's throw everything in, and we'll get Slimer. We'll get all the gang back in here from the first movie.
Yep.
Just because.
Because they can. It's the IP. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't know the whole series of this, but there's a little battle here with like it kind of gets thrown into old New York. And there's like pilgrims and stuff like that fighting them, pilgrim ghosts. You mentioned like this giant pilgrim ghost, right?
Yeah, like 25 feet tall.
Yeah.
But not a man on stilts, just a giant man.
And then you get to see Slimer again, who's now met up with Lady Slimer, and they're driving around the Ecto-1 with like a female version of Slimer too.
Yep.
Chris, what do you think of all the Slimer activity here?
The Slimer activity, I don't know. In the context of all the other cameos, I thought the Slimer one was fine. My biggest problem with this one, we haven't quite talked about yet, but meanwhile, while they're all fighting, Chris Hemsworth, which is now the bad guy, right? Rowan is inside Chris Hemsworth, is standing on the roof of the hotel and like making all of the police and military people dance with him. And I thought that was the dumbest part of this whole movie.
You know, I thought they were going to do more of that. They kind of just do like a one position and then they stop and freeze, right?
Yeah.
Or did I miss something?
It was like a 30-second thing.
It was like bop, 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 like a 3-part dance and then freeze. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty silly. But they're all frozen in like a Saturday Night Fever kind of like pose, pointing their fingers out. Yeah. So more battles. They all meet up eventually. They're all together now.
Yep. And they finally reach the door of the Mercado of this hotel, and they convince Rowan to get out of Kevin, right? Because Kevin, even though he's a big idiot, they love him and they want him back. And so, kind of like the first movie, they Gozar the Gozerian says like, "Whatever you think of, I will take that form." And in this one, it's like, "What do you want me to be? I'll take that form." And so Leslie Jones says, "I want a small, friendly ghost."
Yeah, so he turns into the logo for Ghostbusters. And at first it's the small logo, but he gets bigger and bigger, and then he's kind of like a big ghostly size, or a giant, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man size of the logo. He kind of looks like the ghost from Nightmare Before Christmas. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I can see that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. He looks exactly like that, like he's wearing like a potato sack almost. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that happens, and there's a big showdown here with ending in one of the wildest moments in the franchise. You got anything about this battle here before I tell how it ends?
No. Hit me with it.
Oh, I don't know. There's some just fighting, general ghost busting and stuff. Lots of like little ghosts here and there. But it ends with there's a big vortex in the middle of the city. And they know they got to get this creature into the vortex. Why not? So they. Oh, the plan is okay. So the Ecto-1 they mentioned has like this thing on top of the car that's basically like a nuclear reactor, which I never really understood what is on top of the car. Did they use that for something?
In the other movies, no. So this is the first time they even address, because there's so much shit on the top of the car.
Yeah, I mean, can you like capture ghosts with the thing on the top? Like drive by busting, you know? Is that what
I don't know. They've never really explored what the car can do.
They really haven't. And
even in this movie.
I just thought of that very first game that I really hated playing. You can like assemble stuff onto your car, like ghost catchers and stuff like that. So it seems like somewhere in the lore, the car has abilities to catch ghosts or can assist in it. But you're right, they never show it at all, do they?
No. It's honestly, it just feels like a toy. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, that's what it was. I bet you.
Yeah.
The toys created something where or maybe in the original show, the animated show, maybe.
Yeah, there's stuff on the roof actually did stuff. I bet the animated show used it a bunch more. Yeah. Because the movies barely used the car.
Yeah. So anyway, they explained that the top of it has this like nuclear reactor thing on top, and their plan here is Slimer and his lady Slimer is driving around the car, and they're gonna bait it into driving at them and move out of the way, and Slimer's going to drive off of a cliff into the vortex with the car and explode everything. So it's going to reverse the vortex, the ghost vortex or whatever. Am I making any sense?
You're not, but that's what's happening in the movie.
Yeah, so just the thought of having Slimer and his girlfriend drive off this cliff and into a
vortex
in the Ecto 1. And that's like how you solve the movie. Well, okay, so they almost get it, and then the giant ghost creature is resisting a little bit. So then they get out the busting, and it's time to bust, and they finish the job and pull him in. But they grab Melissa McCarthy along the way and bring her into the vortex. But you know, Kristen Wiig could not leave her friend behind again. So she straps herself in and she jumps into the vortex. And there's like I don't even know. They're like she's diving into the void, cheesy looking, like just green swirls everywhere, and saves her and pulls her out.
That's right. The real ghost busting was the friends we made along the way.
She's busting all the way. And when they come out, though, they've got white hair.
They do.
Which, again, I don't know. They didn't seem to age rapidly. They just got white hair.
Yeah. And then in the next scene, her hair is orange. And she says, the box said the color was called Garfield. It wasn't even the cat. It was the president.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
They come out with white hair and they're like, what year is it? And they're like, and they say it's 2040. Our president is a plant.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Yeah.
JK.
Again, the government downplayed everything, says it wasn't supernatural, but people believe. You see like New York light up with like "Thank you Ghostbusters" stuff in the windows, kind of like in 2020 when every day at 7 p.m. they'd lean out their windows and clap for the Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's two other small things at the end here. We do get Ernie Hudson, who pops in for his cameo as Patty's uncle, the owner of the hearse, and Sigourney Weaver's in the credits. And then also the city gives them that firehouse, which would seem to set up a sequel to this movie because the Ghostbusters are now in Ghostbuster HQ. But obviously does not look like we're going to get a sequel to this movie.
Well, yeah, there's more in the post credits. I don't know if you saw that. There's a post.
Oh, hit me with them.
Well, did you say the uncle shows up? Did you ever say that?
Yep.
Yeah, Uncle Winston. Yeah. What else? The credits is like full of like little bits. Sigourney Weaver. Did you say that as well?
Yep.
How did I miss all that? I'm sorry.
I was talking too fast. Maybe.
I got a text. Yeah, so the post-credits scene is them. This is where she invents. Oh no, she invents like a nutcracker or something. It's just like a funny little moment. But it's not for catching ghosts. It's for cracking nuts. And at the very end of it, Leslie Jones is like listening to tapes, and they're kind of just hanging out in their office. And then she's like, "Whoa, what is it? What is it?" And she says, "What's Zool? Do you guys know what Zool is?" Which is from the first Ghostbusters movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think that was a little thing like, ooh, maybe the next one could be we'll have Zool come back or something. Or it's just another little Easter egg because why not?
Yeah, everyone else from Ghostbusters 1 got a cameo. Why not Zool?
Why not Zool? Well, except for Rick Moranis. But I know
he's still retired.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's about time he comes out of retirement. You know, I love Rick Moranis.
Yeah, he's great. He's really great.
I actually... oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to go on a Rick Moranis tangent. No, I think they tried to get him back for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids show, and then the pandemic hit. So he was like almost coming back, and then that happened.
Oh.
Another casualty of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the movie. Chris, did you like the movie?
Yes, I will say yes. I thought it was nice. The first two-thirds of the movie I thought were really well written. There were a lot of jokes in them. Um, I think compared to the other two Ghostbusters movies, they gave each character more to do. I really liked Chris Hemsworth and his like insane brand of idiot, and I also liked Kate McKinnon's character a lot. There were a lot of like fun actors in small parts, and as far as just like a fun movie, I think this one like hit enough for me. The back half of the movie I think was a little disjointed, and I didn't love the final like showdown scene. But I didn't love the final showdown scene in Ghostbusters 2 either. So yeah, I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. Is this better than Ghostbusters 1 for me? It is not, but I don't know. I thought it was a fine movie. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely funny. Like I did like it as well. Overall, I don't know if it's not like a classic.
Yeah,
I feel like the comedy really works in a lot of parts, especially the first like half of the movie. Um, but the action scenes, the ghosting and all that stuff doesn't really work for me fully.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the tone and like the comedy works because everyone
the
in
to-
it is so funny.
the tone and the comedy are better than in Ghostbusters 2, I
And
think.
Ghostbusters 2, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, of course.
yeah.
Um, you know how I feel.
I do know how
Y-
you feel.
yeah, it's funnier than Ghostbusters 2. It's not fun. I wouldn't call it funnier than the first one, but there's a lot more jokes in it.
Yes.
Um, it's like I was trying to say earlier, it's one of those like Apatow kind of comedies, like Bridesmaids or whatever, where there's a lot of improv, a lot of just like you can tell they're like shooting out lines constantly, and these are the ones that they used. Like a lot
Yes.
of the Chris Hemsworth stuff is like I know they're just sitting there like just say a bunch of dumb stuff, and we'll throw like 20 things out, and then some of the funnier, more random stuff. You know what I mean? A lot of
Is what
random
they kept. Yeah.
humor. Yeah. Which works. I think that's a great way to make a comedy.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's very good. It definitely like didn't deserve all the controversy that came around with it. Um, there's a lot of stuff with the just to talk about that controversy stuff real quick. It's like, you know, a lot of like misled misogyny at the beginning of it. But there is something to be said about just lazily rebooting something, and just like gender swapping, that kind of thing. Like, I would love to see more female-led comedies with original IPs, but like, then you also, if you don't like the movie, people were labeled as like, sexist as well. So there's somewhere in between where I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's like a classic or creatively special or anything like that. Do you want to touch on that stuff at all?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought like as a Ghostbusters movie, it was successful. It's not the best entry in the franchise, but it was fun. And yeah, there's like no way to talk about this movie without all that shit.
Yeah.
I think if it's okay, can I talk a little bit about like some of the context for this movie that I was reading about this week?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go for it. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I'm still reading this book called "How Ghostbusters Slimed Us Forever" that just kind of goes through a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff.
That
And
title.
I know, and it's like I don't know. It had like a really good. I'm really glad that I read this part because it kind of covered everything between Ghostbusters 2 and this one. I don't know, just like it's kind of fascinating. Like at this point, Dan Aykroyd has made Blues Brothers 2000, and I think Ghostbusters was his last, and so he kind of ruined Blues Brothers. I think this was like his last golden ticket, and so he was really antsy in the 90s and 2000s to get this on track. And so he wrote a script called Hellbent, where the Ghostbusters go to hell. And at this point, they were already talking about recasting all these characters. And so, like, as a viewer of Ghostbusters and as a fan of Ghostbusters, you're hearing all these things like Dan Aykroyd wrote a new script, and they might have Leonardo DiCaprio or Will Smith or Chris
Oh my
Farley
God.
or David Spade or Matt Damon or Chris Rock. Like, those might be the new Ghostbusters. How freaking cool would that be? And Sony bought the website Ghostbusters3.com. And so it looked like we were going to get
But
Ghostbusters 3.
They had a website made, or they just bought the domain?
They just bought the name. They bought the domain name for Ghostbusters 3. And so, like, as a fan, like, you think you're going to get this next entry with all these, like, classic, like, Saturday Night Live comedians. And then you aren't able to get that for a bunch of different reasons. And, like, Bill Murray being an asshole is a huge part of it. Also, Bill Murray worked with Harold Ramis on Groundhog Day, and the two of them were barely on speaking terms for the rest of Harold Ramis's life because the experience was so toxic between the two of them.
Oh, wow.
And then Ivan Reitman directed the movie Evolution. I don't know if you remember that, but it's like a space
I love that movie.
Great. I can't remember watching it, so I'm not going to weigh in on it. But it was a huge financial failure, and everybody saw it as a Ghostbusters ripoff. So the movie studio didn't really want to give them this huge amount of money, you know. So it, like, there were so many things going on in the background, and then I don't know, like, it doesn't really seem fair what happened to this movie with all that toxic masculinity, because nobody else was willing to step up and make this thing at this point in a way that the studio would accept. Until Paul Feig, like, after all the success of Bridesmaids, was like, I'm just going to make this with my Bridesmaids team. And I think with that team and with what he had envisioned, he was successful. It's just that it didn't meet the expectations that everybody had after 30 years of Ghostbusters 3 rumors. Like, we don't get a sequel, we get a reboot, you know, with a bunch of people that we may or may not know. And the other thing is, this came out in 2016. And if you think about the political climate around the 2016 election, like, this was a really easy target for people that wanted to talk loudly.
The anti-woke crowd or whatever.
The anti-woke crowd had a thing to point at. Whether that was fair for this movie or not, I don't think it was fair. I think this is just a fun popcorn movie, but, you know, like, that's not what those people wanted to talk about. So, I don't know. I don't want to really weigh in too much more than that, because I think this is just a fun movie that got dragged for coming out at the wrong time.
It's definitely like I said before, just the laziness of just like, we're just gonna recast it however you want to do it with, like, gender or race or whatever, and people get mad about it for racist reasons, and then if you don't like the movie, then you're labeled a racist or a misogynist, and that's not fair either, because it's like, you know, I mean, maybe the movie just sucks on its own right, and then I don't know, it's just kind of shitty loop that happens with movies, and I want it all to stop.
No more movies, says Tanner.
You do see when, like, no more movies. Yeah, you do see when, like, a movie with an all-female cast comes out that's an original thing. Nobody seems to be up in arms about it. It's not like, oh, I don't want to see women in the movies. It's not like that. I mean, I go back to, like, you know, Alien or Kill Bill, these movies that were, like, huge for me growing up. I love these movies, and they had females as the lead, badass, kicking ass, and nobody thought anything of it, you know. So I don't think people are against these things. It's just like, once you do it in a franchise, it's just like it's a mixture of that small amount of group, that small group that has that hate, but also, like, extrapolated to people that just like the art form and are like, okay, that's just a lazy, like, way to reboot this. You know. Anyway, it's a complicated issue, but you're right. The movie is not bad and did not deserve that.
No.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Also, I mean, maybe we should transition here to the milk that we.
Yeah. Yes. In one sec, I just wanted to go the box office. Talk a little bit about that. This was a bomb, though, for whatever reason. You know, probably because of the controversy. That was definitely a huge part of it. Had to have been. The budget was $144 million, which is pretty big. It made $221 at the box office, and we've mentioned before that they usually say the movies need to double their budget size to make a profit, which I really don't understand Hollywood accounting at all, or how that makes sense, or why wouldn't that be considered the budget still? But anyway, that's the way it works. They don't factor in marketing into the budget and all the stuff that comes around with it after the fact. So this was a box office bomb, considered to be. And And I did see that it was banned in China, which probably didn't help with its because that's a huge market for movies, like
Oh
big
yeah.
time.
I'm trying to think what would have gotten it banned in China.
Well, they have in 2008 they passed a law restricting depictions of terror, ghosts, and the supernatural. So they just
there
don't
we
have
go.
ghost shit in China at all.
What a bummer.
It was doomed from the start. It says terror in that as well, which is like, did they just? They may not even have horror movies at all or anything of the sort. Yeah, I don't know.
Yikes, man.
So, yeah, that's another reason because they talked about a sequel for this movie and instead decided to go with the Legacy reboot or the Legacy sequel that we're going to watch next week in Afterlife.
Yeah.
And I think they were hoping to get more sequels, but obviously nobody wanted to be a part of it. And the studios were like, no, it didn't make any money. So
I can't imagine that any of the main actors or Paul Feig would want to touch this again.
Totally.
We talked about it before, but it talked about the YouTube trailer when they finally got it up had 647,000 dislikes against 220,000 likes. So before it came out, it was already like 3-1. People were like rooting for this movie to fail. And I can't imagine that it's like fun to be a part of that experience,
yeah.
Why would you sign up to do that again? Like, what a miserable experience.
I mean, I kind of was like, oh God, this looks bad as well, even though I really like Bridesmaids and I like the actresses in it. I didn't see it till it came out on video or it was free streaming later on.
Sure.
And I think I was like, I want to see it just because I gotta see it, and it's in my wheelhouse of movies that I'd like. But I wasn't rushing to the theater either, so it probably affected me more than I even realized. Just from an artistic perspective, though, it's just a lazy reboot kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it makes for great content on this show, so I'm happy.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that's all I got on this movie, Chris. Or did you want to talk about any like MVPs or beef or anything, or do we kind of cover all that?
I think we kind of cover. I think either probably Kate McKinnon's my MVP, maybe Chris Hemsworth. I think those two were just magnetic. They were so fun to see on screen. Did you have anything different?
Well, I think McKinnon is a great choice. Yeah, I think she. I was just thinking she has not done enough. She was the standout on SNL. Like after Kristen Wiig and Armisen and Bill Hader and all those people were on there, they all left, and she was on for like a long time carrying that show.
She was the main draw for like 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, she was like exceptional on the show, but I also feel like she never had a real strong character. Like they've never figured out what to do with her, and maybe that's the problem. She just hasn't had that right moment, Sure. She was good, but I feel like there's something that she needs like a starring vehicle of some type. I don't know.
It's weird she hasn't had one because I don't think she's on the show anymore, right? Is she? Like,
no, she's not for a while now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
3 or 4 years probably.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean she's doing stuff. She's acting. She's in stuff.
She's actress.
She's in Barbie. I mean, she's in Barbie, so that was a huge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
But a small part,
Mm-hmm.
She's like the crazy Barbie, so she's been typecast as like the wacky girl.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Can I give you one more little thing from this book that I was working on?
Sure. Yeah.
It talked about like when they signed Paul Feig on to make this one, and then right around the same time, what's that guy's name? Chris Pratt and Tatum. Chris Pratt.
Oh, he's so cool.
He's so cool, dude. And what's Tatum? What's his
Channing?
First name? Channing Tatum. Thank you. Also, so Paul Feig had already gotten signed on to do this, and they publicly said that they wanted to make like a Batman Begins style, or like Dark Knight style Ghostbusters movie, like dudes fighting ghosts, and
like dark and serious.
Yeah, and at this point, Bill Murray, like all the Ghostbusters principals, had sold the rights to Sony, and Sony kind of got greedy and kind of greenlit both of them. And then once the Lady Ghostbusters movie was moving ahead, the other dudes kind of distanced themselves, and that's another thing that I think if they had really wanted to make this into a bigger franchise with like different offshoots, that would have been like a whole different way. It would have just totally changed the trajectory of this franchise if that movie had also been made. So it was interesting reading about that.
That'd be interesting. I don't know. I mean, Ghostbusters is supposed to be a comedy. It'd be, something I'd be interested to see. But also just make make a new franchise that like
that doesn't have Chris Pratt in it.
Serious. Oh yeah, Chris Pratt is one of those people you just throw into your franchise.
Yeah, dude. Jurassic Park. What's it need? Chris Pratt. What's
Super
Mario need? Ugh.
You know he's playing Garfield in the new Garfield movie too.
Of course he is, following in Bill Murray's footsteps.
Yeah, I guess the last question: do you think they should have made a sequel to this movie if the controversy wasn't and it was popular just based on the movie alone, or do you think it's just a fun one-off?
I think it would have worked either way. I mean, if they had gone and taken on Zool, I feel like they had a good creative team that was writing good comedy, and they were able to include a lot of the bits of the old franchise. And I think they went a little too far with the nods to the old movie personally, but I think they did a good job of including all of them.
Too many cameos and references.
I think so too. But I don't know. I think like I said, I enjoyed this movie. I'm sure whatever they came up with next, there's enough funny people involved in this. It would have been funny too. But, it's hard to think about this movie without the context of all the controversy. You know what I mean? I think Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about the milk. The part of the show where we talk about other IP that we delved into. Chris, what do you got for us here? I think we probably have an overlap for one.
Yeah. Well, I read that book, which had a bunch of interesting stuff, and it talked a lot about Bill Murray. And like, I guess I just want to talk about Bill Murray for a second. It's crazy to me that anybody ever had as much creative control over shit as he had in the 80s and 90s. Like, I just imagine, like, if I was a comic actor now, I would be so resentful towards him that he had this much creative freedom and he was, like, so abrasive. I just feel like a lot of things got taken away because Ghostbusters 3 never happened because Bill Murray was, like, off pissing people off, and at one point he fired his manager and all those people, and the only way to get a hold of him was with a 1-800 number, which is how he got cast in Lost in Translation. The director of that movie called it like a bunch of times to try and get him. I don't know. It's crazy to me that he like carried his career the way that he did in the 90s. It's just wild. But anyway, the other milk that I watched this week, and I think you watched an episode too, was a show called Extreme Ghostbusters. Yeah? But I think we should probably talk about that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool.
It came out in 1997. Looks like 40 episodes were made. And it was technically a sequel to the old cartoon. And it's got... It's a bunch of we got 4 new characters, and then they're kind of led by Egon. So Egon is in the show, and so is Janine as the, not the same voices or anything. But, Chris, what else you got on the show here?
Man, I'm really happy we're talking about this the same week as Lady Ghostbusters, because I think it really shows the change of times, because this show cast... there's a Hispanic Ghostbuster, there is a lady Ghostbuster, there is a Ghostbuster in a wheelchair, and then the fourth one is a black Ghostbuster. And I don't remember there being any outcry over this, like, at all.
Yeah, well, it only lasted 3 months.
Yeah, also true. And so maybe that's the way people spoke out about it. But, like, this isn't... Lady Ghostbusters isn't the first time that they, like, recast a bunch of white dudes as, like, a diverse cast. Like...
That's the thing. These things have always happened, and it somewhere in the mid 2010s or whatever, it became like this issue again.
Yeah,
and it's just like it never was an issue.
Yes, because this show happened. Yeah. Again,
there's laziness in reboots in general from an artistic standpoint, but it doesn't matter like as far as the race or gender. Like none of that matters.
Yeah,
it's quality that matters to people most.
Yeah. And speaking of quality, I really enjoyed the episode of the show that I watched. I thought the writing was really funny. I thought that they had this great diverse group of people and like, but they didn't point at it the whole time. They just had different, like the Hispanic guy, his bit was like making jokes. He was like the joke guy. And like,
They
it
call him
wasn't
the
just,
Joker even.
there we go. There we go. No, but I don't know. I thought it was fun. I liked it quite a bit more than the other Ghostbusters show. The episode
Yeah,
I
me too.
watched was like a haunted house that ate a couple kids, and they had to go in and like the house was the ghost, and so it was like kind of a good setup for like a horror show for kids. And I thought it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
And yeah, what also Egon has a sweet ponytail, and I feel like we need to dedicate a solid 5 minutes to talking about that.
5 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
It's blonde and it's beautiful.
Ooh-hoo-hoo.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a lot better too. I watched it like a week ago at this point. I can't tell you a whole lot about what happened in my episode. But I do know that Slimer is voiced by Billy West, who is Fry from Futurama and a lot of other of other stuff. Yeah, he's
Okay.
he's Zoidberg, Farnsworth, and Fry. He's in Ren and Stimpy. He did Bugs Bunny for a time. He's a big voice actor.
Okay.
And then the other voice actor that stuck out to me is Roland, one of the four guys, is played by Alfonso Ribeiro. Who is Carlton.
Okay, the Carlton himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Does Slimer talk at all in your episodes, or does he just kind of make like noises?
I thought he just made noises. I didn't really.
Yeah.
I feel like they were like eating a sandwich and he got excited about it.
A lot of sandwich humor in these
A
cartoons.
lot of sandwich humor.
Yeah. You mentioned that last week, I do believe.
I just think it's the laziest humor. Like, look how big this sandwich is not a joke.
That was my favorite part of last week.
Yeah.
Talking about the big sandwiches. Gets me every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was fun. It wasn't like a huge hit. Apparently, it didn't last very long.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any.
It seems like it missed the Ghostbusters wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at this point, the kids weren't playing with the toys. No kids knew the movie. It was just too late. You know.
Yeah, and it featured a like a rock and roll kind of edgy version of the theme song, which I kind of found to be funny. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got on that show. You got anything else?
No, that's about it for my milk. So I read the book this week, and I watched an episode or two of this. But yeah, got some new stuff for next week coming for sure. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I've got. I actually played the 3 Extreme Ghostbusters video games.
Wait, there's 3 games based on this TV show that didn't even last a year?
Yes. So that's another thing. There's always something funny with these games. They're the real milk of this franchise.
Oh, God, I cannot wait to hear about this.
Well, it came out. First of all, they came out. Let's see. This aired in 1997. The show came out. The games came out in 2001, 2002, and 2003. So 4 years after this failed show, they released games of this, which is just crazy, right? Is that not weird?
No, that's bizarre. Yeah, super strange.
Yeah. So they, the first one is just called Extreme Ghostbusters 2001. They're all Game Boy. No, the first 2 are Game Boy games. And it's just a simple platformer. I couldn't get through more than 5 or 6 minutes of it. You can play all of them, but it was hard to play on my computer because it's a Game Boy game and like blown up to my computer size. It looked so bad. And just had some like, I think more technical issues. I also ran around the level for a while and couldn't figure out where to go. So I quit. But it's a basic platformer where you slime guys. You can beat all the 4 characters. The next one was it was Game Boy Advance. So it was a little bit easier to play. There's some driving, there's some platforming, kind of fun. It's called Extreme Ghostbusters Ecto 1.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So is there more car stuff like we were talking before?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a very simple, it starts with a car part and there's probably more. but you just are driving and like picking up little clocks to get more time until you reach your destination. You're just driving and dodging, so you're not busting. Unfortunately,
It's too bad. That's what makes me feel good.
I know that about you. But yeah, so I don't really know if these games are hits. There's not a whole lot of info on them, but they're out there. They seem very cheap and just I don't know. Just they're looking for more Ghostbusters content, I think, and that's what they made. The last one was a little bit different, and it's a what do you call it? It's like Time Crisis, like a light gun shooter or a rail shooter. You know what I'm talking about? You know Time Crisis, right? Where it's like those arcade games, the shooting games with the guns.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Like,
yes.
Things pop out, you shoot, and you move to the next spot, you shoot, and then you just kind of like move along a track like that.
Sure. I think Area 51 is the one of those
Yeah.
that I played the most. Yeah.
Yes. Classic. So it's like that, but like it's for PlayStation 1, and it's pretty. It was kind of fun just because it was one of those kind of games, and I like them for about 20 minutes. And then it got just so repetitive.
I like them for about $1.25 worth of quarters. Yes.
Oh, exactly. That's even.
Yep.
That's a lot. Wow. Yeah. So, I played for maybe like 30 minutes. It was pretty fun. I mean, the thing is, you stand in one spot for a long time and you just shoot like ghosts and zombies over and over again, and they don't add any more bad guys for 10 levels. Like I played through 10 of these little things. They're only a couple minutes a piece, and you just shoot until you complete it. It's more like racking up points than going along a track and trying to like finish the level like that.
Yeah.
So it's just like little instances of that, and then you fight a boss. So in the second world, though, it was like way too easy, and then it really ramps it up in the second world. And the only extra villain that they added were little leprechauns. So you've got
Okay.
the same blue ghost, and then you've got the same zombie or mummy or whatever it is, and then now you have leprechauns coming out at you, popping up.
Oh my!
Like a little target practice thing. The other thing with a game like that is they're not as good if you're using a controller, right? So you're not actually pointing a gun at the screen. So those games are fun because of that aspect. You're like actually pointing and shooting. They're not as fun, obviously, when you have to like move the controller.
Yeah, move your joystick. Yeah.
Yeah. But I got a little bit of fun out of it. It's a pretty cheap game, very loose with the Ghostbusters theme again. But that one's called the Ultimate Invasion. Extreme Ghostbusters. And I played all three of those, and you can watch it on our YouTube, Milking the Franchise on YouTube.
Woo-woo.
And I'm very close to actually having everything up. I've got them all uploaded, ready to go. I just am going to put them out there finally. So people, if they want, can watch those. And they're anywhere from 2 minutes to 6 hours long. So,
which one is 6 hours?
The Riddick one. So, some of them are just here's a little thing of like the Ghostbusters ones are all showcases of there's 5 minutes here, 20 minutes of that. Just kind of like showing you all the games, and then like the Highlander ones, it's like I played 2 minutes of it, and that's all I needed to see. And then the Riddick thing I played, it's just like a full walkthrough, not walkthrough, but long play as they call it as the kids call it. So yeah, I played that entire game, but that's out there. Goes along with every episode, all the video games. Yeah,
love it.
It's exciting. Yeah, Chris, do you have anything else to talk about in your book, or are we all caught up?
I think we're about all caught up. Planning on reading a little bit more of that and branching out too. I think we got some weird stuff for these next couple movies. The publishing arm of Ghostbusters went real ham for the new movies. So
that's a tease because I don't even know what you mean.
Yeah. Excited for next week, and also excited to watch a Ghostbuster movie that I haven't seen before because all three of these ones were not new to me. So this next one is going to be the first new installment for me.
Very curious. I do like Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon, and The old Ghostbusters gang is back, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So
quick
next
reminder
week,
before we jump off here that in the show notes there's a little survey. It's got some jokes and some prompts. Help us make some jokes, and we'll read what you write at the top of the show next week when we talk about what's the name of the next one, Tanner?
Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Ghostbusters Afterlife. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, we'll see you then. See you, Chris.
Bye.